So let's move on to the next one, guys.
Oh, yes. I mean, we've seen the return of the schoolgirls,
Yep.
which is a good one. But of course, don't forget that we're also expecting a shipment of, it's not a return, it's actually, we're expecting a shipment of COVID vaccines in Nigeria. It's been a long time coming, really. So we saw it happen in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and it is D-Day for Nigeria,
so to speak.
Yes, so to speak. So all eyes, really, as you'd expect, we're covering
Why
that
so
one
to
for you.
speak?
Well, we heard over and over again, this is the date it's going to happen. Okay, it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen at the end of the month. It's going to happen this time. It's going to happen next time. And then, the shape of insecurity just shifts.
Yeah, use your favorite word. Shifting. We know you with that word.
It's just the complexity of it that's making, but let's not keep our guests
But
waiting.
on the lighter note, don't forget the way these things happen. Is how it is with transfer news. You think you have it all figured out, but then when you see the smoke, there's something brewing somewhere. So maybe they hadn't had it all tied up.
Well,
but eventually now we'll have the date.
Now we have a date. We're waiting for the shipment. But let's
today
talk,
anyway.
Let's talk to
syringes may have been,
We're meant to have come yesterday.
Chamberlain does have some information we don't have.
That's what we do. Give information.
Yeah, that's our business every day.
Simon Agwale joins us this morning. He's Chair, Africa COVID-19 Vaccine Manufacturing Initiative. He joins us virtually from Maryland, USA. Thank you for joining us this morning. First of all, of course, the whole of Africa is excited about this, hoping that it will indeed, be a final nail on the coffin, at least in good time. First of all, what can you tell us about all of these initiatives, pockets of countries in Africa getting vaccine, Nigeria expecting its own? What can you tell us so far?
Well, thank you very much for having me. The good news is that Nigeria will be receiving, from what we have been hearing, 4 million doses of the vaccine, specifically AstraZeneca vaccine today. And then Nigeria has a very important and well developed strategy for implementing the vaccines. That is using the structures that have already been established by the Primary Healthcare Development Agency. But the issue is not the implementation. Nigeria is known for implementing vaccines, especially the polio vaccines, meningitis vaccines, and so on. So implementation is the least thing to worry about. The thing that we need to be concerned about is the supplies. How are we going to get the vaccines to vaccinate at least 70-80% of the population? That is one. The second is now we have emergence of variants. In fact, a Nigerian variant has been recently characterized. It was published in Forbes magazine by Professor William Helsinton of Harvard University. And then the Nigerian strain, has some similarities with the South African strain and then the Brazilian strain. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't go ahead to implement this. I wish that we have the 140 million doses of the vaccines that we need to achieve herd immunity so that we can implement that immediately. Because if you don't do that, if you allow the virus to circulate in the population, you're going to continue to have mutations of this virus, and then they will continue to evade the vaccines that you'll be developed. But unfortunately, we can't do that because there's vaccine shortage globally. So my advice to Nigeria, number one, is that we need to sit down and talk about how we can manufacture these vaccines locally. Now, just yesterday, all the ICU units in Brazil are almost 95% occupied. So that's another wave of the infection, and this is due to the variant in Brazil. In fact, just this morning, the director of U.S. Center for Disease Control warned that the successes that U.S. has achieved so far can be eroded because of the variant. So, the key thing here is that we need to sit down, think about how these vaccines can be developed and manufactured locally. Let me give you an example. Now, the vaccine you are getting protects from the data, that is the AstraZeneca data, protects against the original virus, 76% success rate. The overall efficacy of that vaccine is 62%. And then if you space the second dose, let's say 12 weeks, you get the efficacy move up to about 82%. And then the trial was done in South Africa, and the efficacy was only 22% because of the South African variant that has evaded the immune response induced by this vaccine. So in essence, what that is telling us is that the current vaccines protects against the original strain. Now, the companies are already working to update the vaccine to incorporate the South African strain, the Brazilian strain, and so on. Now, the original strain, we have not produced enough doses for the world. When will you produce these new other vaccines, which are going to be booster doses, and then get them to Africa? This is where the problem is. So without working hard to have a local vaccine manufacturing on the continent severally, we will have problems.
But Dr. Agwale, the key question in this, the key word in this next question of mine to you is the word wait. For how long is this wait going to have to be? We kept you waiting earlier, for which we apologize. And people now have to wait, a longer time for this first dose. There is a critical issue you've touched on now, which is the vaccines target the original strain. Now we have mutations, and mutation is not just going to stop. We have heard over and over again from specialists like you that for as long as the virus moves from one person to the other, the likelihood of mutation is high. So for how long do we have to wait, first for this one that you are talking about, and then for this new, the virus, the vaccine that is going to touch on the new strains? Are you saying this new strain, this one is not even strong enough to take on what we have at hand?
Well, it's difficult to say that. If you look at the data that is coming out from Israel, Israel is probably the best so far because they've gotten at least 50% of their population vaccinated against COVID-19 using the Pfizer vaccine. So if you look at the real world data, in fact, that data is even better than the data that we have from clinical trials. So vaccines do work. Vaccines can end this epidemic. The problem is that we don't have enough doses to immediately and quickly vaccinate everybody, at least 80-90% of the world population. If you do that immediately, you'll be able to end the epidemic. But because we don't have enough doses, you are giving the virus opportunity to circulate more. And then by doing that, they will now mutate, and then they will create new variants and make it difficult for you to contain them. So the point that I'm trying to make is that every continent, every nation should focus on local vaccine manufacturing so that we'll have enough doses. You're getting 4 million doses for a population of 200 million people. Do you know when you're going to get the next set of doses? Let me give you an example. I had, here we're working on, what we call multivalent vaccines, because we know the original strain alone is not going to work. So we're incorporating the Brazilian and the South African strain. And now 2 days ago, Nigerian strain came up. So we're incorporating that to have a multivalent vaccine. So when you have that, where are you going to manufacture the vaccine? We can use a contract manufacturing facility here in the US to produce enough doses for clinical trials. But once you finish that clinical trials, you want to commercialize the vaccines, where is the factory? Now, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, they have already updated this vaccine, incorporating these new strains. You are still battling to produce vaccines against the original strain. The same way that you are battling to produce vaccine for original strain is the same way that you produce vaccine against these other strains. So when would these vaccines get to Africa? So this is what the concern that basically we have. So the thinking now, I'm specifically talking to PTF and CACOVI, specifically now, the thinking, the discussion should be focused on how we can develop and produce these vaccines locally. Without that, we're going to continue to waste time. And 40 million doses of the vaccine for 200 million people is a drop in the ocean. When I had a discussion with one of the manufacturers 2 days ago. They told me that if you place order for single-use, single-use bags, that's for vaccine manufacturing, it will take you, if you place order today, it will take you 60 weeks to get that product. That's a long queue. Even if you want to set up a fill-finish facility today, the manufacturers are the same. The same companies that these big companies, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, go to, is the same company you go to. There's a long queue. So if you place order today, you don't even know where you're going to get your filling lines, because there's already a long queue. Everybody is expanding their capacities and so on. So the earlier we start this, the better for us.
You know, Dr. Agwale, we're already battling with few queues here. Now this is another long queue. Goodness, that's a huge one. But we'll at least hope to get some response from the PTF and CACOVI. But when you talk about getting booster doses, Johnson & Johnson rolled out yesterday single-dose vaccines. Doesn't that address the question of getting booster doses?
This is the point. That single-dose vaccine is based on the original strain. So you have to you have to update that vaccine to incorporate the variants. So you have to give a booster dose. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is based on adenovirus, in fact, is being manufactured here in Maryland by Emergent Biosolutions. So they produce the vaccines, and then the bulk product is sent to another company to put them in vials, for distribution. So there's even a lot of fight within the state of Maryland. They said, this vaccine is made here, you're taking the vaccine away from us, so you need to give us the vaccine first before you give someone else, because that is where the vaccine is made. So that current vaccine, the vaccine that is currently made by Johnson & Johnson, is against the original strain, which does not, the original strain from laboratory data and so on shows that it can work against some variants, but it has reduced effectiveness. But the real world data was generated in South Africa. And then the Johnson & Johnson vaccine in South Africa, the efficacy was about 57%, which was above the approved threshold of 50%. So that was why South Africa adopted that. The COVID vaccine is not about prevention alone, the infection, but preventing disease, preventing you from being hospitalized, preventing you from dying. So the data from from Israel shows that all the people that have taken the vaccine so far, none has been hospitalized and none has died. So don't just look at it to prevent you. You can get if you take the vaccine, you can get the infection, but you will not be hospitalized and you will not die from the disease. So it's talking about 100% efficacy. So there's a lot to learn. What I'm trying to push here is that Nigeria should develop the culture of research and development, because without research, everything we're talking about now is guesswork. We're talking about the AstraZeneca vaccine coming against the original strain. We need to do research. The variants that are circulating in Nigeria, the people that are going to take the vaccine, are they going, if they get infected, are they going to be hospitalized? Are they going to die from the vaccine? So these are the kind of data that we need to generate, so that it will inform a proper, successful program.
All right, Dr. Agwale, very interesting points you raised there, but we'll go to break, and then when we return, we'll raise questions about some of the attempts they made here to raise data. Who knows if we'll address the questions that you have raised, but that will be when we return in just a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. Markway has got some questions for you, Dr. Agwale. Markway, go ahead, please.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain. Indeed, Dr. Agwale, you have focused very heavily on us getting our vaccine production outfits up and ready. However, we've been told that we're going to be getting here in Nigeria today the AstraZeneca vaccines and also the Johnson & Johnson vaccines as well. However, listening to the news last night, a number of countries are also considering getting vaccines from other countries which had hitherto been overlooked, just so that they can achieve the herd immunity. For instance, a number of countries are thinking of getting vaccines from Russia, the Sputnik vaccine, and also the Sinovac, which is being produced by China. Should we be looking there as well, considering the fact that we're just getting a very small quantity for now, which might not be able to help us achieve the herd immunity which we're looking to get? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, great question. Like I said, Nigeria will be getting AstraZeneca vaccine. It's a very good vaccine developed by Oxford University. They use the platform that we call viral vectors, and specifically they use the monkey adenovirus, which is the co-virus, monkey co-virus, inactivated to express the spike protein. Every vaccine that we have today is expressing the spike protein, because the good thing is that we already know what works. The spike protein is the protein that binds to the human cell and then allows the virus to enter the cell, and then you are infected. So if you can induce immune response to protect that from happening, then you'll be protected. So all these companies and all these vaccine platforms are designed to present that spike protein. So that is the technology of the Oxford and AstraZeneca vaccine. The reason the AstraZeneca vaccine is cheap is because they said that they don't want to make profit during the pandemic. So it means that once the pandemic is over, the price is going to change. That is why the AstraZeneca is not that it's an inferior vaccine. It's just a decision that the company made. Now, to say that you have Johnson & Johnson vaccine, I don't think it's possible now, because the product was approved by US FDA on Saturday. And then the company said they will make 20 million doses of the vaccine available by end of March. And you know where that is going to go, here in the US. And then by June, they will make at least 100 million doses of the vaccines available. And you know where that is going to go, here in the US. Now, the reason you have Johnson & Johnson vaccine in South Africa now is because South Africa participated in the global clinical trials. And that's what we're trying to get Nigerians to do. Participate in the global clinical trials. When you're participating in trials, you negotiate. Okay, I'm going to participate in this trial. If the product proves to be successful, then we should be first in line. And that's why every attention is focused on South Africa. And that's why we have to make this happen in Nigeria as well. So I don't think we should think about getting Johnson & Johnson vaccine now. Now, In India, for example, the AstraZeneca licensed the technology to Serum Institute of India. Serum Institute of India produce 1/3 of all the vaccines that are sold globally. So they have a big factory. They produce 1 point something billion doses of the vaccines annually. Now, there's pressure from the Indian government that please focus on producing vaccines for local use. I mean, India is 1.3 billion people. How many doses of the vaccines are they going to make? How long is it going to take them before they think about you? So we are fortunate to have COVAX to be able to get these initial doses for us. But the reality on ground is that the world does not have enough manufacturing capacity right now to take care of the population, the percentage that we need to achieve herd immunity. There's a state in Brazil called Manaus. Manaus, 76% of the population has already been infected. They have antibodies to COVID, but there's still transmission going on. So what is herd immunity as far as COVID is concerned? So the point is that everybody that has the opportunity to take the vaccine should immediately take. And the way we will have ended this will have been having enough doses for, let's say, the 140, 150 million Nigerians, which you are not going to get the vaccine anyway, and massively administer these vaccines. 4 million is a drop in the ocean, and the longer the virus stays and circulates, the more mutations you are going to get. And then these mutations will evade the current...
I'm sure that the Nigerian government is aware of that. And I'm sure that, if they could get vaccines some other way, they would. The question is, should we be looking to other countries? Yes, indeed, we're getting these vaccines under the COVAX scheme, which is trying to ensure some equitable distribution, excuse me, of vaccines across the world. However, should we be looking to other sources as well? For instance, Russia, which had initially sent samples of its own vaccine here to Nigeria, or should we be looking to China? We see some countries in Europe already doing that. Clarifying what you said about Johnson & Johnson, I think we got that information from the Minister of State yesterday when he did say that Nigeria will be expecting vaccines from AstraZeneca and also the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. The question is, should we stop there, or should we be looking to other countries for other sources of the COVID-19 vaccine?
Everything boils down to manufacturing. I have partners that have license to sell the Sputnik, which is the Russian vaccine. What is the production capacity? There's none. It's not about choosing the Sinopharm. What is the production capacity? They can't even produce enough for the clients that have already paid for the vaccines. This is the point we're making. It's not about choosing whether you want this vaccine, that the production capacity is not there to produce enough vaccines for the war. And all these companies already have advanced purchases. I mean, for example, the Serum Institute of India, and I have a couple of friends there. So I discussed with them. I said, okay, how can we quickly get some vaccines? They said, please, no, we're not taking orders. The orders we have now, we are battling to meet the orders that we have, and it's going to take a while. So we're not taking new orders. The same thing with Sinopharm, and the same thing with Sputnik. So the question is not where to get the vaccine. The key thing is there is no enough manufacturing capacity right now. Even here in the US, there were proposals to give only one dose of the vaccine so that more people will be vaccinated. But FDA, of course, they approved this based on the clinical trials that were done.
Dr. Agwale, if you can hear me.
Yes.
Since you're proposing that we get our capacity up and running, how long is that going to take vis-a-vis, waiting on the queue for, say, other countries to give us more vaccines?
Well, the short term is basically there's nothing you can do. Right now, short term, you have to get the vaccines from other sources. But the point is that create the enabling environment for the private sector. Government can't produce vaccines. The government should be out of this. CBN can create a funding mechanism, some kind of fund, soft this thing, and then encourage private sectors to come in. The private sector are the one that will make this thing happen immediately. Now, building vaccine manufacturing capacity is not a triviality. It's not something you just wake up and if not, you will have seen it all over the place. But I can tell you now that Nigeria is blessed with some of the best scientists in the world that can make this happen. Not only producing vaccines, but developing vaccines. I told you basically what we're doing now. We're already working on a second generation vaccines to incorporate all these variants. We are incorporating the South African strain, the Brazilian strain. Now, 2 days ago, the Nigerian strain was described. So Nigerian strain has some characteristics similar to the South Africans and Brazilian strain. So we're incorporating that into the vaccine. Making the vaccine, because we already know what works, is the least thing to worry about. The manufacturing needs for the people that need it is where the problem is. So we need to sit down, think, and then provide the necessary environment and the resources to make this happen. We can develop a roadmap for the country within the shortest. This is COVID and this is emergency. You shouldn't treat it. I mean, in one of my contributions to Guardian 2 weeks ago, so the CBN came up with a program, and they said call it healthcare emergency, whatever, and then it was like a grant for scientists and researchers that want to develop vaccines or drugs against COVID-19. The deadline was October last year. This is February. No single award has been made. This is an emergency. The review process shouldn't be more than 4 to 6 weeks. Great initiative. If it is properly implemented, you will be amazed at the innovation that you begin to see in that country. That's what the country needs. There are a lot of products, a lot of ideas that when you provide the necessary resources, you'll be amazed at what will happen. But this is 4 months now.
Yeah.
No single award has been made.
Well, I think what we can only say now is to look forward to that local intervention by African countries that you've talked about earlier. Otherwise, just as you said, it will seem like we're between the devil and the deep blue sea, if we can use that. But for now, we have to thank you very much for being a part of this conversation. Dr. Agwale is, Dr. Simon Agwale is chairman, Africa COVID-19 Vaccine Manufacturing Initiative. He joins us virtually from the USA. Thank you so much for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're back in a moment with just one more thing. Please stay with us.